Ex-US President and most likely the upcoming US President Donald Trump has rung the death knell for NATO. Let's start with what he actually said.
I said, you got to pay up. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
Trump literally said he would encourage Russia to attack a NATO country if they don't pay their bills. Trump's statement sparked fury in Western capitals. White House said the comments were appalling and unhinged. Even the NATO chief condemned the statement and said it undermines all of our security. Well, Trump spoke like a true businessman. A US-led NATO is a complete failure. NATO is expensive yet useless. It is completely funded using American taxpayers' money. The US pays to keep Europe safe. Obviously, this cannot continue. NATO has for years been pushing for more spending by its member states. The alliance increased overall spending for the first time in 2 decades in 2015, but most NATO countries still don't pay their recommended share. There is this graph on your screen. Every nation must spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense. But Europe's 2 largest economies, France and Germany, are not fulfilling their commitments. Even big nations like Turkey, Italy and Canada are also on the same boat. Now this graph shows how NATO Europe is taking US money for granted. Even if we combine the spending of all European nations together, they still do not cross the 2% mark. Today's NATO has become irrelevant because it has defeated its own purpose. Here is how. NATO was formed to make Europe independent of US security. Yes, you heard it right. In the years after World War II, the US pushed to rebuild Europe both economically and militarily under the so-called Marshall Plan. While the Marshall Plan provided critical economic assistance, the US also effectively financed the military reconstruction of Western Europe. Through the 1949 Mutual Defense Assistance Act and the 1951 Mutual Security Act, the US provided more than $50 billion in today's dollars in military aid to the newly formed NATO. When NATO was formed in 1949, it was seen as a way of keeping Americans engaged in Europe and preventing the US from reverting to a post-World War I isolationism. But the US was also focused on encouraging the European rearmament and reducing reliance on the US. It is to be noted that the US also strongly backed a French proposal to create a European Defense Community or EDC, which would have formed a pan-European army. In the aftermath of World War II, the US therefore sought and encouraged ways to spur European defense reforms in an effort to strengthen the European pillar of the newly formed alliance, which would have reduced Western Europe's military and economic reliance on the US. Ultimately, however, the EDC or the European Defense Community never took hold and a European army was never formed. Europe integrated economically but not militarily. In the last 5 to 7 decades, Europeans never felt the need to get serious about their own security and building their own army. It looks like they need a Trump to remind them of their old promises and commitments. Europe needs a Trump to wake up to their threats. Europe needs a Trump to be independent and serious. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Outright for more such insightful information.